and welcome to my knitting channel. My name is Monika and this is everything I knit in 2025. I'll start with what I'm wearing. This is not a knit from this year, it's from 24 and it's my very first Seascape pullover by Andrea Yetman. I knit this very much off gauge. I think I knit a size, I knit a size 2. I can't agree with myself whether or not I try to get to size 4 or size 5. In my notes it differs, but it does fit me. I knitted on 4mm needles and I used quite a lot of different yarn. I do have my notes here on my screen. I knit the very first yarn up here is an unknown grey yarn that I was gifted by my sister-in-law, and the other grey and white is Rauma Finull in the color Natur, which is the white one, and Grå Melert, which is the grey one. And the green and red are from Natur ullspinneri. They're called Fongen. They didn't have color names, they were just red and green, I guess. So that's all I have to say about... No, that's not all I have to say about this sweater. There is a mistake in the pattern. I know the mistake is at least for the size 1 and 2, because I did knit the size 1 later, where the short rows in the back are skewed compared to where you're supposed to split for sleeves. I didn't notice on this one until after I had gotten quite far past my splitting for sleeves. So I opted for the option to pick back up right under the short rows and then knit that part up. I did add back short rows, whether or not they are, well, they are not exactly the same because I knit them bottom up instead of top down, but it was, in my opinion, relatively easy fix. Later I tried to fix this issue by moving where the short rows were and trying to get, because the reason why the short rows are not perfectly aligned with the beginning of round is because your beginning of round is supposed to be on your shoulder, so it will like seamlessly go down and then end up under your arm when you split for sleeves. That did not work out for me. I don't remember which side it's on, but if you look at my back you can clearly see where the beginning of round is almost exactly on the shoulder. I do not remember which one. Probably this one. Anyway, so I have a plan to knit a new one this year. It's a very good stash buster, which is why I keep going back to it, because I only used 100 grams of both of these two colors and only 50 grams I think of the white, and I have one more white stripe. So I think I got like a lot out of this yarn in this project, so I'm very happy. Oh, also I have green at the very bottom. I like that detail. I didn't have enough grey left over. I think I used up all of the grey, and I didn't have enough of the green left over to do the cables in the pattern, but I do have a project later that does have those cables, so I opted to fix the issue with the short rows in the third project, which you will be seeing in the next podcast episode, by just having the beginning of round in the middle of the back. It's not for that many rows anyway, so I don't think it matters. Okay, let's go into the things I've actually knit in the past year. The very first project, I'm actually going to have to show a picture because they're home decor. We have quite a few statues from different games, most of them from Assassin's Creed, but we also have a Batman statue, and we opted to make, or I opted to make tiny Santa hats for them. Batman does not have a Santa hat, but I did make one for the Joker, which is the green one you might be seeing in the picture, and the rest of them are for the different Assassin's Creed characters. So yeah, I made them with one of them I crocheted. That's the green one. That one's made out of Rauma Finull in the color Bunadsgrønn, which is a very, very lovely color. I think actually it's the one at the very end here. And the others I made out of Sandnes Garn, Babyull, Lanett in the color red and Optisk hvit, which is the really like bright white one. So yeah, that's the very first project, and that went quite quickly. Also, I did use very small needles, 2mm needles and 3mm hook for the crochet part. All in all, very happy with the project. It's always fun when we bring them out in December, and yeah, it's just very fun. The very next project was a project that I opted to fix. In 2024, I knit quite a lot of different things in both cotton and bamboo, and one of the things I knit was this lace singlet. And when I knit this the first time, I knit the straps way too long, so I got a lot more cleavage than I was comfortable wearing. And also I knit the straps in this pattern, which was very beautiful, but it kept curling because it doesn't have any like ribbing or anything to keep it flat. So it didn't look very good while I was wearing it, and it was very difficult to make it lay flat while drying. So the only fix I did was I removed the two panels, or what I'm going to call it, the sleeves, from the top, and I think I only knit them to knit this strap to the length of one of the leaves, I think. Yeah. They have stretched out a little bit, which is very common in this Viking bamboo yarn. This is the color 600. And my hair is everywhere. Sorry. I have not used this as much as I hoped, mostly because I'm not a very singlet lace person. Which is a bit sad because it's really good. Maybe I should bring this one for our upcoming vacation, because we're actually going to stay a place where it's gonna be warm. So maybe I could at least use this when it's the hottest part of the day. But yeah. Also, before I shortened this ribbing part, this is just pearl stitch. It's the same detail I have on my cardigan that's gonna show later, because I also fixed that one this year. One day this will be a pattern. But before I shortened these straps, the armhole depth was also very, very deep, and it ended up underneath my bra, which wasn't ideal. Now that it's shorter, it actually covers my entire bra. So yeah, all in all, I'm very happy with the fix. It was a quick fix, and yeah, I do show the things I fix too, but I don't count them in my finished objects for the year. I just like to show that if you're not happy with the project, even though you might be happy when you first finish it, you might not know that there are some things about it that's not ideal until you've worn it a few times doesn't mean you just put the project in the back of the closet and never use it. You actually try to fix it. This yarn is very, very cool, and sadly I live in a place where it's not very often very warm. So the very few weeks where it was really hot this past summer, I did use it, but only in the morning because I was a bit afraid that I would get like sweat stains or something on it. Though this is bamboo and cotton, I think. Maybe it's 100% bamboo. Anyway, bamboo is very good at removing odor and not like smelling sweaty. So this is actually something I should use more often when it's really hot. And I really do like the details. It's very, very beautiful. And it's my own design, in case I didn't say. So yeah, just gonna put it in the basket over here. The third project was also a fix. I think I was in kind of sort of mood right at the end of the year last year, after I had filmed my Everything I Knit in 2024, to fix all of the things that I had complained about in that video. So I just did that straight away. The second project, I have not depilled this, so I'm sorry, it is a bit pilly, but it is my very first cable knit sweater. I think the fix I did was I lengthened the sleeves. I think that's the only thing I did, and perhaps tightening up the raglan increases on either side of this cable. I wasn't quite happy with how I had done the increases. They looked a bit more gapey than I liked, so yeah, I just tightened them up. I just sewed them with the little yarn I had left over. I have nothing more of this yarn. I think I have like a gram or two that I could use for repairs, but I don't think I have anything anything else. This one is made out of Lykkegarn Superwash Merino in the colorway Mars. It's one of my most favorite sweaters. It is not oversized. This one is very fitted. I know in the past few years cable knit sweaters have been very popular in the very oversized category, but I wanted one that was more fitted, and this is a raglan, which is also not very common for for cable knit sweaters, but I very much did enjoy this sweater. The only thing I kind of regretted afterwards was that I used these honeycomb cables for under the arms. It makes a very thick fabric because you cable very often, and also all of the stitches get cabled, so it is very tight on the other side of the arm and a bit thick, but because it is honeycomb, it's literally you can like put your fingers between the cables, because it's like two separate fabrics on top of each other. It's a bit felted now because I've been using it so much, so it's not as breezy as it was when I first finished it, more than a year ago. So yeah, very happy with this one. I use it a lot. Maybe not as much this winter, mostly because I have knit quite a lot of winter sweaters. So yeah, this is the second thing I fixed in the past year, but I knitted in 2024. So yeah, also I did short rows in the collar, so you actually get the raised back without having to do short rows in the cable knit pattern. Also my own design. So yeah, there's also no pattern for this yet, sadly. I can just say now, the only patterns I have available is in the description of the video, and it's a hat and a pair of socks. It's my under the oak socks and my what's it called in English? Wow, that slipped my mind. I haven't been talking about my project for so long. Forest hiking hat, that's what it's called in English. So yeah, just totally slipped my mind. I'm a bit out of practice if you couldn't tell. So yeah, third project fixed, but not a finished object in 2025, just a fix. So yeah, the next one was a hat. I made a lot of hats in 24 because I made a lot of forest hiking hats. I think I made like 10 or 11 of that type of hat. My husband was not happy with that pattern for himself because it was not, in his opinion, tight enough on his head. So I did, at the beginning of year, try to make a new hat and knit it tighter. So this one is quite, I prefer something that covers my ears but are not too tight because I often get migraines. But this one is, as you can see, very tight. But I do think this one would be very nice to wear during very windy days because it is double knit. And I do think I'm wearing it backwards, but it doesn't matter. That's just the beginning of round. But yeah, it's very tight. It's very warm. This is 4 layers. Well, this is 2 layers because of because it's double knit and with a folded brim. It's made out of Sandnes Garn Double Sunday, and this is the color deep red. And sadly, I kind of miscalculated how tight he wanted it. So if he folds the brim, it's too tight, but if he doesn't fold it, it looks a bit silly. So yeah, sadly my husband still hasn't gotten a hat that actually fits him the way he wants. But I am very pleased with this hat. I do think I'm going to use it on days where I'm not having any migraine symptoms, but it's very windy, so I can keep my ears warm. I am very prone to getting ear infections, so I would love to not have that. When I do put it on my head, you can see that it gives a lot more than it looks when it's just flat. But I think that's just because I used bigger needles than I should have. But it's very difficult for me to gauge the gauge when knitting in double knitting because it looks so tight on the needles while knitting it, and then it's not as tight afterwards when the fabric actually shifts from being like this to this. So yeah, it's a learning curve. Maybe I should instead have knit like I think it's the muscle barrow hat, where you knit it as a big tube instead and then fold it into each other, because I think it would be easier to see that the gauge would not be too gapey or too tight while knitting it, and since you're knitting it from the crown down, you could adjust more easily the size of the hat, I guess. You could knit a increase round more or less. Yeah. Anyway, I'm still very pleased with this hat. It was a very fun, nice knit. Yeah. I did miscalculate when it came to the crown, so I did end up with, I think, one too few or too many decreases at the end. Doesn't matter. It's not even that noticeable. But yeah, this is the very first, or second technically, finished object for this year. Also a hat. Technically the first one was 2, the tiny Santa hats. But yeah, I don't have a pattern or a name for this either. Maybe I will release it when I do get the gauge and all of that better. Oh well. I'm just gonna put this away. Okay, are we now? Yes. After the red hat, I decided I wanted to make a mini scarf. It is inspired by the Sophie scarf, but I don't own that pattern, so I don't know how closely I came to that pattern. This length is a tiny bit awkward. I should have made it a bit longer, but I do use it when our choir have concerts in the winter, because our wardrobe is black with a red detail, and this looks a bit too orangey in this light. It is very red. It is made out of Sandnes Garn, Babyull, Lanett in the color red. So yeah, I have a typo in my notes here. There we go. Not a lot to say about this. Very easy project. I started with, I think I used the I-cord technique by Stephen West, where you knit a few rows, I guess, with the I-cord and then pick up the stitches in between. So you knit a tube of I-cord and then you pick up a few stitches along it, and then you start knitting in this direction. And yeah, I have afterwards learned that that's not how Petite Knit starts her Sophie shawl scarf. But I don't. I wasn't trying to make the exact same thing. I just wanted something easy to put on right before a concert. So I usually just tie it around my neck, or sometimes I use it as a headband. And usually I do it the other way around, so I have the thick part underneath and then I tie a little bow. But yeah, it's just a concert accessory, so it's not that... I don't use it outside of that. It has a very specific purpose. So yeah. That was that project. The next project was a pair of vanilla socks. And I have not depilled these ones either, so very sorry. I have used them a few times during the summer. What I sadly learned a few months too late is I wanted to knit these very tight compared to my winter woolen socks, because I wanted to wear them during summer. I learned in the past year that I cannot stand the feeling of pearl bumps next to my foot sole. Standing in these socks made me go mad. It was like, no, I hate this. But the socks are really, really lovely. And these are made out of, let me see, Miss Fox Glitter Merino in the colorway Kalskuller. And these contrast stripes are Life in the Long Grass singles in the color Angel City. And I do really like these socks, but I have had to wear them as winter socks, or more like spring and fall, with normal socks underneath, so they are a bit too tight. And sadly that's a theme for the rest of my socks, summer socks, because I wasn't planning on wearing anything underneath them. But yeah, turns out I probably need to knit like a princess sole or something, but I didn't. Super pilly, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is the first pair of socks I knit. I did knit quite a few vanilla socks, and I have learned this year that I find vanilla socks incredibly boring to knit. So I don't understand why I did that to myself. Every time I got a pair done, I was like, oh, that was super boring. And then a few weeks went by and I'm like, oh, I should knit more socks. Oh well. But yeah, I'm just gonna put these away. I don't have a lot to say. I don't even think I wrote down how many stitches I used, but I did use 2mm needles, and I have slowly increased the size I use for my socks because I have learned when I knit the fabric too tight, or as tightly as you're kind of like supposed to do for socks, it really hurts my hands. So yeah, I think in the future, if I'm gonna knit with hand-dyed sock yarn for socks, I'm still going to use 3mm needles, which is what I'm recommending for my under the oak socks, because it's more comfortable. But that pair of socks is knit with that gauge because the yarn is a bit thicker, the recommended yarn, and also it's alpaca, so it is very fluffy and it kind of fills in the holes, so it keeps you warm even though the gauge is a bit more open. I'm gonna show those socks later, so don't worry. Okay, first pair of vanilla socks, and I'm putting them there. I realize now I forgot to bring my knitting book, so at some point, probably after I've shown everything, I'm gonna have a tiny break and get that book, because I have some stats in it that I would like to share. Okay, next project, I made a headband. It's color work and it is double knitting, so it is the same on both sides. It is a bit bigger than I intended. It's a bit too loose, and I did this summer talk about maybe trying to felt it a bit. I haven't done it yet, but I really should, because I think if I could shrink it down a tiny bit, it would fit my head better and maybe also be a tiny bit not as wide, I guess. I should have knit them on smaller needles, but this is also one of those. It was very hard to gauge the gauge in double knitting until afterwards. I should have sized down at least one needle size. I knit them on 3.5mm needles. I probably should have just done 3. But I really do love this yarn. The grey is Rauma Finull in the colorway Lysgrå, and the red is Garn hvit in the colorway ill. That means fire, and to be honest, I love it. It is very accurate. I usually use this side out because it's easier to see the motif, but I also very much like how it looks on the inside. It really does look like fire. The name was just amazing. So yeah, this is a bit more rustic than most of my projects, which is also why I want to felt it a tiny bit, because I can actually felt it. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that quite soon or else I will forget. So I'm going to put this separately from the rest, and then this probably will end up in my next year's video with fixes. If it's successful, of course. If it turns terrible, I will probably have to knit a new one, because I really did enjoy it. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it a bit further. Yes. Okay. I don't know why in the beginning of the year I did so many accessories instead of like sweaters and stuff, because I do have a lot of sweaters on my table, so maybe I was a bit burnt out when it came to sweaters for a little while, or maybe it's just because I hadn't knit that many sweaters. I mean, I knit this one, but I only knit 1 or 2 sweaters before this one. Anyway, next pair of socks is... Did I really? Oh yeah, I knit the second one. Yeah. This is my first official pair of under the yoke socks. I was... Oh, these are really worn. I'm sorry. I was inspired by the color palette socks. That's a free pattern. But I wanted to, for one thing, change the gauge. Let's just show them. This is my under the yoke socks. They are really worn. I made them really early last year. Maybe I just fixed them. I'm not 100% certain if I actually made them or I just fixed them. Yeah, no, I think I made them. I have repaired them several times after that. I keep darning the underside. I'm not going to show that. They are everything sticks to them apparently. And I have been wearing these ones while we've been firing up our wood stove. So I have apparently been stepping in a lot of wood shavings, I guess. Anyway, they're made out of Dalapaka Forte in the colorway Brun. And oh no, these are not the socks. These, I did make this last year. I mean in 2024. Because I can now see that the color was brown and deep red. Deep rød. So these are not the ones, but I'm gonna put up a picture. Yeah, tiny intermission there. Sorry. We had our flight alarms go off, so... It was just a test though. I did get a message on my phone that this is just a test. Don't worry. But the sound really scared me. Oh god. Anyway. I did take the chance to go and get my knitting book at the same time. But I was talking about my first pair of under the yoke socks of the year. Picture up here. These are just so I have something to hold on to. Because this is my very first pair of them and I did apparently knit them in 2024. So good that I did remember it correctly. But yeah. That's my very first... I think it's the first pattern I released. And I'm very pleased with the pattern. I did grade it for 4 or 5 different sizes. I do think my size is the smallest one, but the red socks are knit up in large. Yeah, knit on 3mm needles, so it's very comfortable to knit even if you do use small circumference needles. And yeah, do I have anything more to say about that? Sorry, I got so scared with the sudden noise. I wasn't prepared at all. Okay. I don't think I have anything more to say about that pair of socks. They are available on Ravelry. I have reduced my price on my patterns. I don't know what a fair price is, but I don't think I have sold a single pair of this pattern yet. Probably because I keep saying to people that if you don't want to pay for it, you can go to the color palette socks. They are very similar. They do not have the same slip stitch heel though, because I keep the pattern going from the stripes. And also I have a different toe decrease thing. The original pattern, or the other pattern, has round toe decreases. I like the wedge toe thing. Yeah, so I made sure to keep the pattern going also in that. I can actually show. like this. I'm gonna show the heel in a different pair because I really need to repair these again. They're pilling a lot. So yeah. And also the original pattern is just one size. Or, it's not the original pattern, just the pattern that inspired me. It's a free pattern, so if you do like this, but don't know if you're going to like knitting more than one pair, I guess, and you know how to change your gauge to match, or you could figure out your own how to reduce the number of stitches and stuff. Yeah, there's many options. I do not remember who designed the color palette socks. It's a relatively popular pattern. Okay, moving along. I'm gonna put these ones down here in case I need to talk about them again. The next project was a fix. I knit this in 2024. I think this was my very first sweater, and I don't remember exactly what the issues with it was, but I know there was something weird with the sleeves, there was something weird with the body, but I did like the yoke part until you split for sleeves, I guess. So I do know that I picked up both sleeves and knit them again, and I picked up the body and knit that again, and that's, oh yeah, I remember. I used to have light blue turquoisey color at the collar and the hem and the cuffs, but as the project wore, I guess, the color of this purple faded, but the blue did not. So it looked, the blue was very, very vibrant, while the lilac was not. Yeah, this is made out of Sandnes Garn double Sunday. It pills like crazy because I didn't hold anything with it, and for those who knows, double Sunday do pill quite a lot. But yeah, I knit this on 3.5mm needles. I don't think you can necessarily tell where I did some sweater surgery anymore. Yeah, I did also taper the body quite a bit, and I kept the pattern going from the raglans down the body. Yeah, I actually really like this detail a lot. The only thing that I kind of regret a little bit is the bind off I did at the bottom. It is a lot tighter than the fabric around it, and the way this hits me is on the hips, so it kind of, you can very much feel it while wearing it. So I might redo the bind off. I haven't used it a lot. I think I used it a few times. The reason why it hasn't pilled as much is two things. One, I did depill it while I was working on it, I guess. And I also haven't used it as much as I kind of wish I had. And I also didn't do anything with the yarn before I knit it. So on one of the sleeves you can clearly see where in real life I don't think you can see it in the camera, but I can see quite clearly that here this is less fluffy than this. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone who doesn't knit would notice. And then again, you could just think it was because of that I picked up the sleeves and started knitting in the round instead of, or on small circumference instead of the bigger circumference. But it is actually a few rounds below, if you look closely. But yeah. It's a self-drafted pattern. If I had more yarn, I wouldn't have tapered the body and I would have knitted a tiny bit longer. But all in all, I'm very happy. So yeah. This bind off was a lot better. So I did bind that one off loosely enough. Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about this one. This was also a fix, so not an official finished object from 2025. I'm going to have to fold all my knits anyway afterwards before I pack them away. So, yeah. I'm not too bothered about doing that right now. The next thing I knit, I planned on it being a sweater, but it ended up as a pullover because I couldn't make the arms work, I guess is the best way to say it. But I am very pleased with how it turned out. It was supposed to be my sailor sweater, but instead it is my sailor pullover. The name is because of the colors. I thought it was very like marine inspired, I guess. So yeah. I really do like this one. I have, after making it, learned that I am not a sleepover person, sadly. If I wear this, my arms are cold, regardless of what I have underneath. So the few times I have tried to wear it, I ended up switching into a sweater instead, because my arms got cold. But I do think this is something that would be very nice to bring to like the beach or something on really warm days when like the temperature doesn't necessarily drop a lot, but the difference makes you a tiny bit cold, so it would be nice to just put this on and then still have the breeze so you don't overheat. Yeah. I don't go to the beach a lot though, so I think I only went once in the past year. So yeah. But I really do like it. There are two different types of yarn in this one. It is Rauma Finull, that's the turquoise one, and the colorway is turquoise. And the white is Viking Alpaca Storm in the colorway white. So yeah. All in all, I really do like it. I really enjoy the way I did this crew neck. It is open enough that you don't feel like it's choking you, and since it's a slipover, it matches very well with the ribbing I did for the armholes and also the body. So this, I do think this was a very successful project. I just didn't know myself enough. If I had known when I made this that I wasn't a slipover person, I think I would have made even more of an effort to figure out how to pick up and still keep the stripes in the sleeves in a set-in construction, I think. Or perhaps I would have made this a drop shoulder instead. Though stripes in drop shoulder is very common, and I did learn why in this project. Also self-drafted. So yeah. Now, the next project that I knit was again a pair of vanilla socks. This one I made out of Anita Strikketante, the colorway 172, didn't have a name. I have just called this my blue and green socks. That was the easiest way to remember the name, or remember the project, though it doesn't pick up on the green that very a lot on camera, and the skein looked more green than the finished project. So yeah, but I'm very happy with these ones. I used them a few times during the summer. Again, I don't know why I'm torturing myself knitting vanilla socks when I find it so incredibly boring, but I did. I also knit them on 2mm needles. I hadn't changed the gauge yet. I just the first pair fit very well. Changed up the yarn. I didn't realize that there were gonna be a difference, but I have since learned that the different hand dyers yarn do have different amounts of stretch, and this I should have gone up a needle size because the lack of stretch in this yarn means this is very tight. So even when I do wear, I still have to wear socks underneath. I could perhaps wear this inside out. I could try that. But yeah, they are a bit too tight for my liking when I have socks underneath. They fit perfectly if I don't have socks underneath, but they do not have a princess sole, so they drive me insane, sadly. Yarn is very good though. I do very much enjoy the colorway. Okay, I'm gonna put these away. Now, oh yeah, now there's a pair of winter socks. I knit a pair of under the oak socks for myself because the red pair was for my sister-in-law. And I have used this quite a lot. And yeah, they're knit in also Dal Alpaca Forte. It's my favorite sock yarn, and it's in Grå Melert and Petrol Melert. So marled, both corn yellow and petrol. I don't know how easy it is to see. Yeah. And one of the things I really like is the fact this is knit in the size small, and I do keep the pattern from this twisted ribs stripes in that's both here and in the cuff and in the toes. I keep them up the heel, so it looks very uniform, I guess. Oh, this is appealing like crazy too. Very sorry, I do not depill the projects before filming this. I kind of want to show how the projects wear throughout the year. So unless I do a mid-year depilling, because it's really bad, I don't depill them at all during the year. Yeah, I really do like this. I do also like the heel turn. I think the heel turn is essential to making the socks fit well. The heel turn I did knit in stockinette, I guess, because I do not like feeling too much fabric underneath my foot. The stripes do not bother me because they are so short, or like, yeah, there's only a few rows, so they don't feel weird, I guess. But I do wear socks underneath these. These are my winter socks. So yeah. Okay, I have been talking for quite a while and I am not close to being halfway through, so I need to speed up a bit. 3mm needles, size small. These are my socks, yeah. Okay, now finally we're getting into all of my sweater patterns. Or sweaters, I guess. This is a self-drafted pattern called Västveggen-genser. And this one for some reason blows out my camera. Every time I put it up and then pull it down, you can see the color changes that it's trying to like fix, I guess. This is a striped pattern, but not in color, in pattern. So I have this twisted rib and then the slip stitch cable pattern alternating throughout the whole sweater. It is made out of Sandnes Garn Smart in the colorway Skjøgden. If I remember correctly, that is Superwash, which made it easier to like make this big enough, because both of these patterns do cinch in quite a bit, so I needed some stretch to like get it to the right shape. Though it does have a tendency to bubble a tiny bit in the sleeves. And surprisingly, it's this cable pattern that cinches in the most. I didn't think about the fact that cable and slip stitch at the same time would cinch it in more than actual ribbing. So yeah, but I'm very pleased with this project. And there's actually one in the choir that gave this its name, Västveggen. It's because we have a cathedral, and when she looked at this sweater, she could see one of the cathedral walls, the western wall, and also the color actually does surprisingly match the spires, I guess. And that wasn't planned in my head. I just really loved the color and I loved this type of pattern, and I wanted to make, I think it's called a European shoulder construction, where you do the trapezoid in the back and pick up and knit the shoulders, or like this part, and then connect it in the round. Very, very pleased with this pattern. I like it a lot. The people in my choir keep asking if I could release the pattern, and to be honest, it is a lot of work. So I haven't done it yet. But maybe I will. So yeah, this is one of my first self-drafted sweaters that's a bit more complicated. Well, not quite true. I did knit a cable sweater, so you know. Anyway, really love this color. It pills a lot, but I have also used it a lot. And also it works as a Christmas sweater, even though it's not a Christmas sweater. So I have worn it to like Christmas events that were not very formal. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. Yeah. Okay, moving along. I'm going to have to fold all of this afterwards. Now I fixed this pair of socks. I already talked a lot about these socks, so I'm not going to say anything more than the color is brown and grønn. Yeah, I fixed them. I do that a lot. I just wanted to mention that I do also fix my socks. I think I fixed them like 3 times last year, but this was the first time I fixed them last year, in 2025, so yeah. Okay, I'm also going to put those away. And then I knit a sweater that I still haven't given away. I was planning on sending it in the mail, but after I started knitting it, we got invited to their wedding. So I decided I was just going to give it in person instead. So that's where we are going in a few weeks. And yeah, I am very pleased. This is a Dal alpaca. No, it's a Drops design pattern. It's called Winter's Night Enchantment, and I spent a lot of time on this. It's the size XXXL, and I made it for Danny. Danny, if you're seeing this, you know you're gonna get this. Actually, I'm probably not gonna see it until after you've gotten it, because I'm planning on releasing this video while we're away. So yeah, I really did enjoy this. It's made out of marineblå and morgentåke, so morning fog and navy blue, yeah, that's one. And it's knit on 4mm needles. I followed the pattern exactly, except for when I started to get to the underarm. In the pattern it recommends, I think, casting on a few extra stitches and then just do your best to keep up with the pattern. But I realized if I just didn't increase, the pattern would fit perfectly. And also I thought the body was wide enough. So I cast on, I think, 4 stitches left under each arm, just to keep the pattern better. And I do believe that also fixed the stitch pattern that started under the arm. So yeah, there are decreases in the arm, and yeah, we call this loose. So it's very warm because you have a lot of floats on the back. So yeah, it is made out of Superwash though, because they do not live in a very cold climate. It's very rarely freezing, like literally. So very rarely, I don't think they're having any less than like 10 degrees Celsius. So there's no reason to have a super warm sweater, but he wanted one that was cozy because he saw this sweater and was like, I really want something like that. It looks so cozy. And I really enjoyed knitting this. So much so I actually used the leftovers to knit myself a sweater because for some reason the yarn estimates in the pattern were way off. I took the yarn estimates and then I bought a single skein extra of both colors, and that was like, I only used a tiny bit more than half. Like, I think I used up the extra skein of both colors, half. So I was sitting there like, that's a lot of yarn left over, and it's made the project a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, don't waste yarn. I made a second project for myself, which I have used a lot. So that one is very pilly. So yeah, I do think I used up every single scrap bit of the light color in the other project, so I do not have anything extra of that. But I do think I might have to give them like instructions on how to fix it, because I don't think it's feasible to like send this halfway around the world every time it needs a repair. I hope perhaps they have some knitters in their friends or family circle that could help them fix it if something happened. And I'm going to give them the yarn that I used, the name and information, so they can actually take care of it. It is machine washable. I actually machine washed it the first time when I blocked it to make sure I could withstand it, or else it wouldn't be any use giving it to someone so far away because I wouldn't be able to help them fix it. So yeah, all in all, love this project. It was fun to knit. It was very fun to do the increases, because it did say do this many increases and you're gonna end up with this many stitches, and they did not divide evenly. So I was like, okay, if I knit 4 stitches and then increase, and then I knit 5 stitches and then increase, and then yeah, so it would be like evenly spread. The pattern calculator just wanted me to do all the 4 stitch increases first and then the 5 stitch increases, so it would have been, in my opinion, you might have been able to tell that there were more increases in the back than in front, and I didn't want that, because it's not in the back you need the increases. At least in my opinion. So yeah, I am very pleased with how it looks, and I'm very pleased with the results. And it was very fun, so that's a bonus in my opinion. The pattern was free, it's on the Drops website, so anyone who wants to knit the Winter's Night Enchantment sweater can just find it. So yeah, they have it in both English and Norwegian, and I think English. And a lot of other languages too. You have a drop-down menu you can choose. So yeah. Now, I can actually rearrange a little bit, because one of the stacks are now off my table. So I can pull this a little bit closer, maybe. No, okay, not. I'm gonna divide the stack instead. It's a very tall stack. Okay, the next one was a t-shirt I knit. I think we're starting to get into summer now, so it was a bit too hot to only knit big woolen things. So I do think I realized I needed more summer attire. So I knit this navy t-shirt. This is also a pattern I have knit before. It is self-drafted though. So it is a very simple construction. I did the raglan increases as eyelet details, and also in a very nice pattern, I guess. Not very complicated. This one I have very recently washed, because for some reason it had ended up at the bottom of my laundry basket. So when I was looking for all of the projects to film this video, I realized I couldn't find it. So then I had to wash it because it was underneath like exercise clothing. But I have figured that this yarn, I cannot wash it in the washing machine without putting it in like a wash bag, I guess. But putting it in a wash bag and putting it in the wool cycle does work very well. My other t-shirt, the first t-shirt I knit in this yarn, did get felted. So yeah, it is made out of untold cotton merino, and the merino really felted if I washed it, even on a wool wash, but not in a bag. So this was an experiment actually, because I couldn't be bothered doing it by hand. Yeah, it did turn out quite well. But I didn't realize that this yarn would bleed as much as it did, because the wash bag I used was white and now it's blue, so yeah. The black t-shirt didn't bleed at all, so I guess that's why I'm surprised. Anyway, knit on 3.5mm needles. I did I-cord bind off, and the color is deep sea. Yes. Very simple construction. You're gonna see one more afterwards in a different color, so I'm just gonna skip this for now. Talk more about it later. Okay. Now, I did have two projects where I just wanted to bust some yarn. So I just took some bulky yarn I had and knit placemats or seating mats. One of them I was planning on felting, but my cat has stolen it as a cat bed. So I'm not going to show that one because it's very full of cat hair. But I did talk about that and this other project in the same podcast. So if you look through my podcasts in somewhere between May and July, I guess. Actually, I could check when I did finish this one, so you can see it in the proper time and place, I guess. I finished it in May. So if you look at any podcasts in May, end of May, you will see those two projects, but the other one is this one. And this is what I'm calling the red seating mat. It is very small, so I haven't actually used it as a seating mat. What I have been using this for is to have a layer between me and my water bottle. So when I have, in summer, if I get too hot, I bring one of those freezer things you put in travel bags, and I put this as a layer between me and that, because you could actually really get hurt if you place that close to skin. But I do this like in between. Also I put this in the freezer in the summer, and in the winter I use this as a layer between me and my hot water bottle, so I don't accidentally burn myself, because I use very, very warm water to keep it warm longer, and also, you know, bring out the heat. Though I also have an electric blanket, so I don't use them together. It's one or the other. So in winter I used the heating blanket, the electric blanket, but before I change that onto the bed, some nights are a bit cold and I haven't gotten to doing that yet, so I then use this as a layer between me and the hot water bottle. And also then when the water bottle, I don't need it anymore, I can just take it off and then I turn this one around and it still keeps me quite warm. It's made out of it's an unknown red yarn. That's what what I've written. The other one that my cat stole is a bit bigger, and it's made out of Pretty Prince ullgarn from Gjesdal, in the colorway red, I guess. So yeah, I have actually used this a lot, surprisingly, though it didn't turn out the way I intended initially. Yes. Okay. Then I knit a blue t-shirt. This one. I really do love this color, and it's easier to see the details here. This one is exactly the same as the navy one, but in a different color. It is still in untold cotton merino, and this is called poolside blue. This will also be a pattern someday, when I can just, sit down, write it, and not be too sick to do anything, I guess. So yeah, really do love this one. Super soft, super cozy. Use it a lot during spring and fall. It is a bit too hot to use it during the absolute warmest days of summer. But this one is very good to use on slightly windy days, because the merino kind of fills in the holes in the fabric. A few of my cotton t-shirts that I knit in 24 are a bit too cold to use on on hot summer days if there's any kind of breeze, because it goes straight through the fabric. So yeah, maybe if the breeze is hot, but usually where we live the breeze is not hot. So yeah, really do love this one a lot. Use it a lot. It does not pill, surprisingly. Well, almost not pill. Pills a tiny bit. I mean, merino does pill, so you can't escape it completely, but yeah. And I really do love the I-cord detail on the neck. The only difference between the different t-shirts are the neckline. Some of them I do ribbing, some of them I do I-cord, and sometimes when I do the I-cord, I do the I-cord a bit tighter to make it less V-necky, I guess. it does then ride up the front a bit, so you have to knit it a tiny bit longer. This one I did not tighten the neckline. I didn't pick up any extra stitches at all. No, I mean I didn't skip stitches. I picked up the exact amount I needed to make it look nice and flat. And I really, really, really do think it looks really nice and flat. So yeah, I like it a lot. I'm very pleased with the results. Okay, now, where are we then? Yes, now we're at my own Winter's Night Enchantment sweater. I did think, yeah, I did skip one motif, I guess, because I ran out of the light yarn. This is made out of the exact same yarn as the last one. Drops Charisma in colorway Merino Blå and Monika, because it was the leftovers. But yeah, I did realize I was going to run out, so I ended it at this part, and I think it looks quite good. And I do also think I knit until I realized I couldn't knit a whole new round, so I just bound off, and I was quite happy. I use this one a lot. It doesn't look like it's pilling, but I have. Sadly, I did use this sweater on New Year's Eve, and I got terribly ill. No, not from alcohol. I am chronically ill, and I did accidentally throw up on the sweater and not notice until like days later. But after carefully, it was only a tiny spot, but after carefully working the fabric, you can't tell anymore. I can tell in person, but that's mostly because it's a bit stiff. I'm planning on buying more of this yarn and just replacing those few stitches, and then I can bring that extra yarn to the wedding so they can fix the sweater. Or perhaps, because I don't know if I have the time to do it before we're leaving, I might send them the yarn in the next care package. But yeah, happens to the best of us, and sadly, part of being chronically ill. I am very glad I did wear this on New Year's Eve though, because it kept me very warm in the hospital. So yeah, more information about that will be in the next podcast, which I will probably film right after this video. Oh well. Okay, I am now gonna put this one away. The next thing that I worked on was a fix. You have already seen the white singlet. Now I also fixed my white cardigan. It's very white. It looks so bright on camera. It is very bright. It is also self-drafted, and I do think I did make this one before I made the singlet. The fix was the buttons were too heavy. So at some point, I think even in 2024, I cut the buttons off, but I never replaced them. And then I wore this one in the summer, and I was like, it really annoys me that I can't close it, because I do have buttonholes but no buttons. So eventually, I did fix it. So now I have these very beautiful buttons on. Very simple buttons. I did perhaps fasten them a tiny bit too tightly. So you can see that a few spots where the fabric kind of bulges around it. That's because the buttons are too close to the fabric underneath. I didn't make I didn't make enough space between the button and the fabric to allow for this fabric. So yeah, if that happens to any of your knits, that's why it happens. You have to raise the buttons enough that the fabric underneath has room to like expand. But yeah, my grandma keep asking me for the pattern for this cardigan. So yeah, another one that I really should write down. If nothing else, I could write down my size and then just give it to her, I guess. But I would really much like to make a proper pattern out of it, because I think that looks better. And also that means I could actually release it instead of being a one size fits all thing, because one size does not fit all at all. The size of the sleeves would probably be the same for all sizes though, up until a certain point, because you have to actually fit the raglans with the pattern in a way that is both looks good and feels natural, and you also need a few stitches to actually start the sleeves. So yeah, they are quite wide even for the smallest sizes, but that is what makes this a very good summer cardigan. You don't have like too much fabric underneath your armpits. So yeah, I really do like this one. The only thing I did was the buttons. These are not... Yeah, there's nothing more I did. I should have moved the buttonholes one column over though, because when you're looking at it now, it kind of looks like the buttons are very close to... Yeah. You live and you learn and all of that, so yeah. Very much love this project, use this a lot. Okay. Now, I actually knit another cardigan. I knit the champagne cardigan. For once, I didn't want to think. I got this pattern as a gift from my mom, and I decided I didn't want to think. I really wanted to just knit up a simple cardigan, follow someone else's instructions that I knew were good instructions, so I could use inspiration from the language and the way it's set up when I was writing my own patterns. I didn't actually end up doing that a lot, only the way Petite Knit writes knit this row and then knit this row and then repeat this many times. That's the part that I kind of took inspiration from. The rest is very much my own writing style, but that to me was very clear. Made it very obvious that this was a 1 or 2 or 3 row repeat, so you don't get confused and start doing one row many times and skipping the second row or something like that. So many places in her patterns it says knit this many stitches and then do, like, if you're going to do the raglan increases, and then on the back side, and then like row 2 purl until this, and then do stuff and continue purling. Though she is very good at making sure that most of the complicated things are on the right side, so you can only concentrate on the complicated stuff instead of the knitting, while on the back side you just purl. So I like that type of patterns. But okay, this is my champagne cardigan, and the very first time I knit this, well, I only knit it once, but I did knit the button band several times. The first time it got a bit too tight, and I knit it twice, I remember now. First time button band was too tight, and I also didn't knit buttonholes because I didn't think I was going to close it. I thought this was a project where I would just toss it on over whatever I was already wearing in the office. And then I wore it in the office, and I was freezing, and I wanted to close it. And I couldn't because no buttons. So, when I decided to finally fix the button band, I did also add the buttonholes. These are the buttonholes that Petite Knits has in her pattern, and I do think it looks very good. Though the yarn is very thick, so I do think the buttonholes are a bit too big. I would perhaps have knit a few less rows to make it like close up a tiny bit, because I needed really big buttons to like keep the cardigan closed. Also, when I fixed the button band, I also added this pocket, because I was annoyed being in the office and not having pockets. So this one is a very good sized pocket, because it does fit my phone without any problems, but if I bend over, it's gonna fall out, so be careful. But yeah, it's not a very deep pocket. I didn't want it to be very deep, and I wanted it to not be too obvious. So yeah, you can barely tell there's a pocket there unless I like stick my hand in it. So yeah, I very much enjoyed this project. I do not enjoy the yarn. It's acrylic. It's from the very first stash I bought while I was still studying. Before that, I had usually only knit out of yarn I've been given as a gift, and or leftovers from my mom or leftovers from my grandma. I wanted my own stash, so I bought a lot of this yarn from Rusta, and I did knit quite a lot with it, and at some point I realized I wanted to knit garments, and this is not yarn for garments. It doesn't breathe, it doesn't block. I didn't realize, because I hadn't knit with acrylic that much, that wet blocking is not a thing with acrylic. So even though I knit quite neat, there's still like, I wish I could make it do a tiny bit more. It's just, yeah, didn't quite fit the bill, I guess. I think if I had knit this in wool with a mohair or similar, it would have looked a lot better. But I'm still very pleased with it because it does function in the way I intended it as. A cardigan that I can keep at work. That was weird. I guess they're having a snowball fight outside. Anyway, this is a cardigan that works very well in the office for the use it's supposed to be. It's just not my best work. So like, when people ask me if I knit it myself, I kind of want to say no, but that would be lying. So I do tell them, and I also tell them that like I'm not 100% happy with the yarn, and they always ask me, like, most of the people at work don't knit, so they don't understand that the properties of the yarn, both like how the garment presents and how it functions, are very dependent on the yarn. And acrylic isn't a very good, in my opinion, not a very good sweater yarn. I do think it's better as a cardigan than a sweater, because you can actually open it and then get the air in, so you don't keep all the moisture and heat inside. It's not necessarily warm, but it doesn't let your body heat escape either. So, yeah. Also why it wasn't the best project yarn, since I wanted it to keep me warm at work. But it does function very well when I already have something woolen on top, on I already wear something woolen, and then I just put this on top when I'm sitting because I'm cold. Though the combination of wool and acrylic makes everything super static, so yeah, not the best. But it works. Nothing wrong with the petite knit pattern though. Not even typos. I'm very happy with that pattern. Okay, now for some reason I tortured myself with more sock knitting, and this pair I would consider being slightly a failure. Even though I sized up the needles to 2.25 millimeters, I knit these ones way too tightly. Like the fabric is too tight. The color has grown on me. For those that have heard me talking about this yarn before, I really do love Anita Strikketante's yarn. It is not super elastic, so you should probably size up your needles to get more stretch in the fabric. But for some reason I bought a lot of this color, and then when I bought it and came home I was like, why did I do that? I don't even like orange. And it sat in my stash for a while, and now I do have a plan for the rest of the yarn, and I do actually think I now like the yarn a lot, like the color. I mean, it probably happens to other people too, but the past year there's been a lot of colors where I always felt like, oh, but I don't like that color, why did I buy the yarn? Some of it was mystery yarn, so I didn't know the color I was going to get, but the colors have grown on me, and that's a weird thing to realize, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, these are vanilla socks. They're a bit tight. They're a bit short. Can't wear them unless I have socks underneath. I do like the slip stitch heel though. And yes, I do only do slip stitch heel with heel turn and gusset. It is the one type of heel that I both like knitting and fits my feet quite well. I do have a bigger instep, so I have learned after knitting these that I shouldn't do the decreases so rapidly. I should rather do them every other round instead, to make room for my instep. More room for my instep. So yeah, I do think I don't have anything more to say about this one. Yeah, for once, not a color number, they're actually just called orange. Very, very neat, I guess. Okay. Now, I need a new pair of socks, but this time, winter pair of socks. I think the trend here is I knit a pair of vanilla socks, realize I hate it, and then to remind myself that I actually do like knitting socks, I knit a pair of under the yoke socks. I have realized it's the vanilla thing that's the problem, not sock knitting, though it did take me quite a while to learn that. Anyway, I knit this pair, and these ones are also knit out of Dalla Forte in the colorway Grå Melert, which is the same color that I use for the other pair of socks, but also purpur. And I really do like this color combination, it's quite beautiful. I also used to not be a very big fan of purple, but I think perhaps the fact that I started knitting with colors that I don't necessarily like makes me like the colors more. Yeah, also size small. Yeah, I mean, you have seen this pattern before. Don't need to talk too much about it. So yeah, finished this pair. use it a lot, pelts a lot. What should you do? They're socks. So yeah. But I do very much love them, and I fix them a lot. So yeah. Okay. That was that one. Now we are down to the very well, I was going to say the very last few projects, but I realized that now we're getting into a lot of projects that I don't even have photos for. But I'm still gonna mention them. So, okay. Before we get there, though, I do have a cable knit sweater. I knit this one, and I knit this out of Lille Tyck Merino in the colorway Misty Mountains, and I love this project. I had a few times thought that perhaps I should have done helical knitting, but doing helical knitting in this cable pattern, I think I would have lost my mind, to be honest. This is the same cable pattern that I used for my other cable sweater, but I changed what's underneath the arm. Now the underside of the arm, give me a moment, this side has the same cable as the top. And on camera you can't tell that this is a cable knit sweater, but you can definitely tell that in person. So this is just one that's not very good at being filmed, I guess. It's not a very good camera knit, but in real life it's beautiful, and I have gotten so many compliments. People come up to me going like, "Oh, I really love that color sweater," and they come closer and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's cables?" And then I get that reaction so often, and I find it hilarious. This one I did not raise the back of the collar. I kept it the same both ways, just because I wanted to. So yeah. There are of course dye-lot differences because it's hand-dyed and I didn't do helical knitting. If I had skinned up all of my skins from the beginning, I would have been able to make it more of a fade, because the first skin was relatively dark and it went into this very light part, and the second skin was very light, second or third, I'm not 100% certain, and the last skin was very dark. So there's a big difference between my two sleeves, because you can tell where I ran out of yarn. But I don't mind. I actually love this sweater so much. I just use it a lot, and I did run 100% out of yarn. I had like a tiny gram or two left over. I think I even had to shorten the hem with a round to be able to do the Italian bind off. I didn't mind. I didn't do the setup row for the hems, for the hem, because I didn't think I would have enough yarn for it, and I didn't. So I'm very pleased with that decision, but I did do that for both the collar and for the sleeves, the setup rows, and it made it look very neat, but nobody's going to look at my hem anyway, not that closely. So yeah, it doesn't matter that I didn't do the setup rows for the Italian bind off there. I must admit, I didn't know about Lille before I started knitting this one, but she is now one of my favorite yarn dyers. Her colors are so vibrant, and the marling is really interesting, and yeah, I just love it. And I really do wish I had bought more yarn of her when I bought this one. She has not traveled to a lot of the yarn markets in my vicinity after this one. I bought this in May, I think. Yeah. Or maybe I even bought it the year before. So I'm very, very sad that I didn't realize how much I liked that yarn. Also, Lykkegarn has stopped traveling here, at least in the past year, which is also very sad. I do have a policy for myself. I do not buy hand-dyed yarn over the internet, because then I wouldn't buy anything else. So I only am allowing myself to buy it in person or getting it as gifts. That's how I keep my budget down. Well, kind of. You can see how much yarn I do have, so it's like maybe not the best way to do it. But I don't go to yarn markets more than a few times a year, so. Anyway, very pleased with this project. It turned out really well. It took me ages. At some point I got really burned out from all the cables, so I put this down for quite a while. And then I was like, I really should finish it. But I was also afraid of running out of yarn. And then at some point, Lille Rille was at the yarn market. And she didn't have any more of the thick merino, but she did have thin merino, and she had thin merino in the colorway Skogen, which is very close to this dark color. Like not marled, but like more solid. And I decided that if push comes to shove, and everything else is lost, and I completely run out of yarn and the sweater is not long enough, I can hold that yarn double and finish the hem. Didn't need it though, so I am actually very much looking forward to using that for a pair of socks. So yeah. Very happy with the sweater. Turned out very well. Uses quite a lot. Not as much as I thought I would, but I think that's just because I have come to the point where I do have a lot of sweaters. So yeah. I need to make sure I actually rotate them quite well. I think it's easier now because I have changed up my wardrobe, so now I put my knits in a bin instead of stacking them in a shelf, meaning that I don't feel bad that I have to like move stuff and then maybe they don't look as nice afterwards, because no one's going to see inside my bin anyway. Also, they're more protected, so I'm very pleased with that. Okay, putting this away. The next project I knit is something I gave away. It is, I bought the baby bear suit pattern, thinking I was actually going to make the whole suit, but I have yet to do that. So yeah, I knit the bonnet part. I did it in different, I have knit 4 of them, just let's say, straight out. Actually, I think I might just talk about all of the bonnets now, even though I do have 2 projects that are intermingled in this, well, array, I guess. The very first one I do have a picture of. It's the blue one that I made out of Sandnes Garn Sunday, not double Sunday, just Sunday, in the colorway Blå Turkis. It's very close to the color that I took out of the purple sweater. And it turned out quite well. I gave that away to a pair of friends of mine who had their baby shower in August, I think. At least fall last year. And I really did enjoy that. And there were a lot of babies coming throughout the fall of 2025. So I decided to knit more of those. I knit 2 that I completely forgot to take any pictures of, but I knit one of them out of the orange yarn that I used for the socks. It's actually the yarn that I have here, and that's the leftover from after I had knit the socks and the bonnet and still had yarn left over from the first skein for some reason. amazing how much yarn you get. And the first one I knit with the drawstrings you could see. I did that also for the second one and the third one. The third one I made out of Lykkegarn Vår i luften. It is also in there somewhere, but I'm not gonna find it. Like leftovers. Also knit that one with, like, not drawstrings, but like I-cord ties. And then the very last one I knit out of Ching fiber, I think it's called yak singles, in the colorway Dusk. That was a colorway that I had been struggling to use because, as I said before, I'm not necessarily a big fan of purple, and this one was a very cool toned one, and it didn't suit me, and I couldn't quite figure out what to do with it. But my little sister loves purple, and this color was just beautiful. I do have a picture of that bonnet, and for once I did use a button instead of ties because I wanted to do something different, and I had a very cute button I wanted to use. Yeah, the first, did I even write down the size in it? No. I did knit them all in different sizes, but I also did knit them off gauge, so yeah. The first one I did knit it so the child would be able to wear it when it was 3 months old, I think, because the baby would be born in August, September ish, so in 3 months that would be winter, so it would like fit. Hopefully, we do not know the size of the babies that get into this world, but like hopefully it will at least fit for the first winter. The second one, the orange one, I knit it in, I think, also 3 month size, because that was also for a newborn. The third one, I think I knit it slightly bigger. Maybe. Or maybe it was slightly smaller, I don't remember. But those three had very similar sizes. And then the fourth one I knit in 1 year size, because that was for my niece who turned 1 in October. So I wanted her to be able to use it for kindergarten. Yeah, the purple one. I knit them all in the same needle size, it seems. So, yeah. The 3 of them were in Superwash. The first one was not. So I had to like give the knitting, the band for the yarn with it for them and tell them like, sorry, I messed up. I was so excited to knit this, I didn't realize or think about the fact that when you have babies, they really should be able to like machine wash everything. That was a mistake on my part. Okay. Anyway, then we can talk about the other projects that I knit. I knit a second Seascape pullover. This time in brown. And I'm very happy with this one. This one is slightly bigger than the one I'm wearing and also have full length sleeves. The pattern does say 3/4 length sleeves, but I just knit them longer. Also, off gauge, I knit the first size because I had very thick yarn. Yeah, let me just go through every one of them. I had Rauma Finull in the colorway Mørk sjokolademelert. And then I have the dark green one is Rauma tretråd strikkegarn in Mørkgrønn. This is the same yarn I used for my sailor sweater, sailor pullover. It is Rauma Me 2 in the colorway turquoise. And then this one was Sandnes Garn in the colorway Sunny Lime. And then at the very bottom, I have a different color. You can't tell unless I do it like this. But at the very bottom, I held 2 yarns double. It's Nea ullspinneri, and the yarn is also called Nea, in two slightly different colors. One of them was very clearly black, while the other one was more very dark brown. But holding them together, you have a very nice subtle marling effect. And also here I do have the cables that are in the pattern. I wanted to knit something out of all of these yarns. I got this brown yarn from a knitting friend of mine, because she had started on the project and it didn't work out, and she was really frustrated and like, I can't look at this yarn anymore. Just take it off my hands. I think I bought it for a very, very low price. And I also got this dark brown and black yarn at the same time. I also got some other yarn, but I haven't used that yet. And in the beginning I was planning on using the yarn she gave me together in a project, but I couldn't quite figure out what to do, and I was like, but I do have a lot of leftover, or well, not leftovers, but like I had one skein of this one, I had one skein of that one, I had one skein of this one, and like I don't know what to do with this. I couldn't figure out what to do. And then one day I wore this one and was looking at all of these yarns, and I was like, I didn't care about the yarn weight for this project, or to check that the yarn weight between the colors were perfectly matched, because it didn't matter. Like the green and the red is slightly less thick than the white and the grey, and nobody actually can tell that well. Maybe it doesn't matter that none of these colors have the exact same yarn length. Like the brown and this turquoise one is quite close, but the green one, this dark green one, is slightly thinner, while this Peer Gynt is slightly thicker. And like, but does that matter? And eventually I was like, you know what, I'm gonna knit a second Seascape pullover, both because I really loved the project, it was very fun to knit, and having a striped project that aren't just striped, like this is striped, but it's more interesting to knit it, and also if you do end up losing yarn chicken in one of these stripes, you can like fudge it. So yeah, it worked out quite well in my opinion. I did realize I was going to run out of the brown one, and I did have a discussion with myself on whether or not I should like have different colors on the cuffs, or like, but I did eventually realize I could use this yarn if I held it double, and I used up every last bit of almost everything. The only thing I have left is this turquoise one, which I have over here in my, this is my leftover yarn bowl, but you can still probably make a project out of it, while this is my leftover yarn bowl only for repairs, if it makes sense. And if I do have bigger quantities but I know I'm not going to use it, I take off a few grams so I have it for repairs, and then I give the rest of it away to a friend of mine who do work on a bigger project with leftover yarn. I do not necessarily like the look of scrappy projects for myself. I like other people's projects, but it's not my aesthetic. So this is the type of leftover yarn projects that I am willing to make, because they look more attentional. So yeah. Okay. It worked out very well. I'm very pleased. I don't think I had any big hiccups other than I tried to fix the shoulder issue and it did not work out. The beginning of round is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this, but the beginning of round is here, and that's like almost in the middle of the sleeve. So it like turns out to be like on top of here, but according to how the pattern is written, it's supposed to be like on the back side of the shoulder. And I did try to calculate how to fix it, but I don't think my calculations necessarily were correct. I know I didn't do them here. I just, when I got to here, how can I show this so it makes sense? The beginning of round used to be here, there, and this is where you split for sleeves. So I just like knit until I got to a logical place to split for sleeves, so it would match up with the short rows in the back, and then just now the beginning of round is underneath the arm in a much more logical place. I don't even think you can tell where the beginning of round is, and I'm very bad at holding up. And now you can see it here clearly. But yeah, I really did like this project. It is one of my favorite ones to wear. It is surprisingly soft, even though the yarn is rustic. So this is, it's the Rauma Finull that makes it so incredibly, well, soft is the wrong one, but like warm and cozy. It is a tiny bit prickly if I do have it like with nothing underneath, but that is most of my woolen projects. So I do always wear t-shirts underneath. Yeah, I really do like this one, and I'm less sensitive now than I used to be, so I don't know if that's just something you can get used to, or maybe it's less prickly in winter, because when the fibers get cold they do close, so maybe it's less prickly because it isn't so warm, so it like to keep the warmth. When fibers do get cold, they close the shells of the yarn. Kind of like hair follicles, because obviously yarn is made out of wool, which is made out of like an animal's hair. So yeah, it behaves similarly. That's also why they say to wash your hair in cold water before you leave the shower, to like close the hair follicles. I don't know if it actually helps, but you know, that's what they say. Okay, love this project very much, use it a lot. I think I said everything I needed to do. In the next project, I instead changed the beginning of round to be in the middle of the back, in the middle of the short rows. And I added a few extra short rows because I wanted it to be even more, yeah. I'm going to have to put this over there because my stack is getting too tall here. Okay, that was, yeah. Now after that project I actually knitted 2 last bonnets, but I already talked about those, so we're skipping that. Now I started on a shawl project. This is a free pattern. It's called the Seascape stole. There are 2 different patterns available. Both of them are free, both of them are on Ravelry. One of them is charted and one of them is just line by line. I thought they were more similar. But what I did was, I do think I have one of them over here. The line by line one, I liked how that stole looked better, so I tried knitting it, and following it row by row. At some point I was like, why doesn't this pattern click in my mind? It should be simple, but the pattern does not click in my head at all. And also I didn't like how those 4 diamonds in the middle look like 3 and 1 missing, regardless of how much I'm trying to. Like, I did block this and still it just didn't open up the way I hoped it would. So yeah, I knit this in Hanna by Permin, which is super soft. It is like a fake mohair because you can use it as a mohair, but there's no mohair in it, and that's perfect for me because I do not like mohair. It is merino and cashmere and some silk. I knit it on 3mm needles. I did think after I had knit a while that the fabric was a bit tighter than I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be even more open. I did like the beginning, but as I said, going row by row, I couldn't understand why I couldn't make it click in my head. So I did draw the diagram after doing it line by line, and I ended up with this diagram. And I understood why I found it confusing to follow. Because the problem was some rows you are doing 1 increase on one side and 1 decrease on the other side, but on some rows you're doing 2 increases and 2 decreases. This is a free pattern, so I don't mind showing you the chart I made. But I decided to stop it here because, for one thing, it made my brain insane. I was so frustrated. I couldn't, like, I had to sit there row by row with the pattern in front of me, and that is not how I like knitting. I prefer it when, like, after a few rows you go like, oh yeah, I can see where this is going, and then just check the pattern once in a while to see that you haven't done anything really stupid. So yeah, I just decided after 2 pattern repeats to just give up. I couldn't do it, didn't want to do it, bound off, soaked it and all of that to see how the fabric actually looked afterwards, and I am very pleased with the look of it, except for the diamonds in the middle. It just didn't want to open up. And also in this yarn you can very clearly see the like the silk core, so it is very marled when you see it in real life. I don't think it picks up that well on the camera. And this is supposed to be light blue, but I was going to say this is grey. And I was going to make this as a stole for myself that I could use for weddings and stuff, so I would always have something to wear outside of my whatever it was, like dress or whatever, in something neutral. But since this was so frustrating, I figured I'm not going to do that. So this is now something I just use as a tiny scarf, which works relatively well. I have to like fiddle it a little bit so it won't look so silly, but more like on top of each other. But I can like do that without too much trouble. Yeah, and it looks okay. I don't use it as much as I wish I did, but you know. But I did decide to make a new project with the same yarn but in a different color. That's white, and I rewrote this pattern to be more memorable, and you can see that in my next podcast episode. So yeah, this is a Seascape stole. It's by Kieran Foley, and the yarn is Hanna by Permin. I wish that yarn was easier to get a hold of because I really love it, and I had to go to like 5 different websites to find the correct color. Yeah, I love that yarn. It's the softest yarn I've ever knit with, ever touched. I would love a sweater in this. I'm making a sweater in this. That's for the podcast episode. Anyway, I don't think I have anything more to say about that one. No. Then my very last sweater project is a sweater project I'm very pleased with. I did at the end of the year start feeling very sick. I have mentioned it before, I am chronically ill. Oh, sorry, I accidentally bumped the table. Please stop shaking. I did accidentally bump the table. Okay. Yeah, I was having a slight knitting slump after all of the baby bear suit patterns. I didn't necessarily want to make anything for myself. I was not in the best place. I do think this is when I stopped making the podcasts because I wasn't well enough to actually make any podcasts. I do think the very last thing you saw on a podcast might have been the very, very first few rounds of this project. I got this pattern from my grandma. She bought it for herself, tried to knit it and got super frustrated because it just didn't vibe with her brain, I guess. It wasn't written in a style that she could easily knit. And the frustration made her go, if you want it, take it. I was like, I want it. It looks good. And it does. And I can really understand why my grandma had trouble with it, because she usually knit from charted patterns. And the way this was charted meant you had to think about two different charts at the same time. But when you looked at this chart, it didn't match with when you were supposed to do the increases. So yeah, frustrating experience. But I don't look at the charts all the time. At some point you establish a pattern and you just keep doing it. So when the pattern said do this for the next how many rows, you're just going to decrease the amount here. Okay, let's just start with what this pattern actually is. This is the slanting slipover, so technically it's a slipover pattern, but I added sleeves. It's made out, the designer is Vestsel Knit. Ventsel Knit. The information will be down here and in the description. It was a bit fiddly to start it, but since you could just follow the instructions very clearly, I did not end up with any trouble, I think. And at some point I could even knit this while being at choir practice. The yarn is Rauma Finull. I really do like that one. In the colorway Blå, held with Rauma alpaca silk in the colorway Kongeblå. Those are not the exact same color, so you get the slight marling effect. And I do actually enjoy that quite a lot. That the Rauma alpaca silk is also kind of a fake mohair thing, but with alpaca instead of mohair. Yeah, I really did enjoy working with that one. Yeah, followed the pattern quite nicely. I did some changes underneath the arm because I thought the armholes were a bit too deep, which isn't a problem when it's a slipover, but it might be a problem when you want to add sleeves. And then one thing I do wish I did differently is when I picked up for the sleeves, I should have picked up at the top, picked up the whole way around, and then started doing the short rows straight away, because then I would have been able to hide the short rows into this fold down here. But instead I do have quite a marked line, you might be able to tell, because I started the short rows underneath the arm, and therefore the wedge grew this way instead of how I could have done it to make it more seamless. Though it did block out quite well, so it's not as visible as it first was. And also I do think I did perhaps a few too many short rows. I shouldn't have had... I do think I ended up with them being too close together on top of the arm, so it does kind of bow out a tiny bit. Not enough to actually annoy me, though I did make one mistake that did annoy me, because I did the calculations for how many stitches did I need to pick up to get down to this cuff, where I could do the decrease from 4 to 3 stitches, and it would look quite good, I think. So it would look like, when you look at it, it looks like one of the columns just disappears or turns into a purl row. That was what I wanted it to be. Maybe it was I had 3 and turned them into 2, I don't remember. Anyway, I decreased quite nicely, also decreased underneath the arm. But when I picked up the second sleeve, I looked at my notes, saw I need 90 stitches, picked up, so I had 90 stitches, and when I got to the decreases that I'm going to do for the sleeve, I realized I should have had 92, because now I had one stitch. I had one stitch too few to do the decreases the way I wanted. No, 2 stitches too few. And I was a bit frustrated, and I was like, it's fine. I think it's the other sleeve because I can't tell. Yeah. Here at the end of the row, instead of decreasing twice, they just are a bit looser, wider. Like, I don't think you can tell actually. I can tell in real life, but you can't tell when I'm wearing it. I should also have had the sleeves or cuffs a tiny bit longer, but I was running out of yarn twice. I had to buy extra skein both of the main color and the other color. But at first I thought I could get away with just buying the one, and then eventually I was like, oh, I have to buy a second one because I don't have enough for the hem. It's a split hem. I actually do enjoy that. I should have split it earlier, I think. Or maybe not knit it as long, because the split doesn't necessarily do the function it's supposed to do, which is like keeping the silhouette nice, but opening up for your hips. Didn't quite get it at the right spot, but it's fine. Yeah, I very much enjoyed this pattern, and it wasn't too hard to figure out how many stitches I needed to be able to end up where I wanted. So there were some math involved, but like not too bad. Yeah. Anything else to say? It was a very enjoyable project. One that I didn't have to think too much, just slight arm math, which wasn't too bad. Yeah. I do like the very wide neckline, though I do think it did widen quite a bit after I started wearing it, like because of the weight of the fabric and also the sleeves that aren't usually there. So it is more open now than it used to be. But also I do enjoy that quite a lot. And this is also twisted rib. You're supposed to do twisted rib on both sides, but I only did half twisted rib because I couldn't be bothered I don't think you can tell when you're just looking on the outside, but I do think that's why it didn't get quite as tight as I was afraid it would be, which is a good thing. So yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about this one. Okay. Those two last projects, sweater projects, are the ones that I use the most, just because I find them so cozy, very warm during the winter, and kind of need that. So yeah. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I have a few more projects. I at some point were really bored with all the projects I had. And decided I wanted to do something new, something I hadn't done before, but didn't necessarily need to think very hard, like a new stitch pattern or perhaps a new technique, and I landed on I wanted to do 2-color brioche. Something that would be a little bit fiddly in the beginning, but as you got like into it, it wouldn't be too difficult, but it would occupy the part of my brain that was starting to go stir crazy. Because it wasn't challenged enough. So I started a hat project. It looks insanely small, and it is quite small, but not as small as I was afraid it would be, because I started the decreases a bit too early. So it still looks quite cute. But I do really wish I had knitted a bit like longer so I could get them properly underneath my ears instead of just on top of them. But I do think I look quite cute. I'm planning on knitting a new brioche hat later in a smaller size. I didn't quite know, since I hadn't knit brioche before, how big it was gonna be. And after knitting quite a few rounds, I was like, I can divide this evenly into 5 segments, I think it was. Yeah, 5 segments. And if I then just decrease slowly, I will get a relatively tall hat with slight decreases, and everything's going to be quite fine. Let's start with color. Start with the yarn. It's Bestmor Meditating in Mumbai in the colorway 104 and 112. I do think that the green one, the contrasting color, is the 104, and the other one is the 112, but I'm not 100% certain. I do very much like them though. It's 2 colors that look beautiful together, and even though in my head this is the inside, you could just as well wear it both ways. It still looks very good. But yeah, what I learned on this project is when you decrease in brioche, you don't just decrease 2 stitches, you decrease at least 3. And that is because you also have to decrease the one column on the back. So when you are decreasing 2 of these light colors together, you're also removing the stitch that's between them, or else you would disrupt the pattern. But not realizing that you were decreasing so many when I did the calculations for how quickly I should decrease, I calculated wrong. Let's just say that I did not do a good job of calculating. And yeah. Also, in the beginning, you get a very distinct, like one column is before, in front of the other. Like the white ones are very clearly in front of the green. But when I had to change needles, for some reason the tension changed, and they now look more side by side. I don't know how easily you can see it. Like here, it's very squishy. Here, it's more flat. I think that's just because I kind of need to work on tension in general with brioche. And also I did have some issues when I started to do the decreases with DPNs. I don't like using DPNs, and I kind of got these gaping holes which I tried to fix between the DPNs. Yeah, it's not the most successful project. Maybe it was divisible by 4. Yeah, at some point I did mess up the decreases, so I had to sneak in an extra one, and yeah, this, what was supposed to be a very nice star pattern, got disrupted. So yeah, I do think if I'm going to do a brioche hat again, I'm gonna start at the top, because I think it's easier to control the increases than the decreases when you're like working with brioche. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't done any brioche increases before, and I only did one type of decreases. I'm probably going to have to look up a tutorial again when I'm going to do decreases the next time, because I have already forgotten how to do the decreases. It wasn't that it was very complicated, you just had to do it in the right order to make the stitches line up in a nice way on both sides of the pattern. I do actually think I like the decreases side better on kind of the wrong side. It looks neater, I think. Also, I did have some issues figuring out how to determine where the start of the round was, so I had to use a stitch marker, but also avoid twisting the yarn when you switch from one to the other, because if you twisted it, it did something weird with the brioche pattern. So I don't know if you can see it necessarily any place here. I have to figure out where the beginning of round is. Probably here, maybe. Yeah, now that I have woven in all the ends and everything, it's really difficult to tell where the beginning of round is, but I think it might be here. I don't know if I was able to fix it every time I did it wrong, or if I'm just not able to see the mistake. But I do know that I did start a second brioche project, and I did a silly mistake a few rows below, and I tried to fix it and realized that I couldn't, because it was because of the way the yarn had twisted around each other, and I got so frustrated I just ripped it out. Also, I realized afterwards I had the wrong stitch number and things to do the thing I wanted to do, so yeah. Anyway, first brioche project, actually quite pleased. I do think I'm going to do it again later, but for one thing, I'm going to use smaller needles, because I used 3.5mm needles. I think, because this is fingering weight yarn, I should probably not use anything bigger than 2.5, even if I want it to be brioche and swishy and all of that, but just to make it look neater. And yeah, maybe next time I'm going to do magic loop instead of DPNs or something. Yeah, don't think I have anything more to say about this one, other than it's the squishiest fabric ever. I love this. It's so good. I mean, the yarn itself is like super stretchy, so it wasn't the best yarn to use for your first brioche project, because tensioning the yarn in itself was already quite difficult when you hadn't worked with it before. So yeah, but it is so soft and squishy. I now understand why everyone going like brioche is so soft and squishy. So yeah. Anyway, the next project that I finished, it was a baby blanket. I was supposed to finish it about the same time as the bonnets, but my health was not in the right place, so I spent a lot more time than I planned on using. It's the Pastel Rainbow Baby Blanket, also called the Feather and Fan Baby Blanket. It's by Stitchy Linda Designs. I used 3 colors. You can actually see them over here. The green, the yellow, and the blue. I thought I hadn't taken any photos, but then I remembered it's actually the front page, the front picture for one of my podcasts, so I have to find that picture and put it up over here so you can see the stitch pattern. Though I don't think that's a picture of the whole blanket. I forgot to take a picture before I gave it away. Yes. I knitted on 4mm needles, and the colors are, or the yarn is Fosenfarger. There's no yarn name, it's just called Fosenfarger. It was Superwash. I don't remember if it was Superwash sock yarn, but it is Superwash. And yeah, no color names on the label, they were just 3 solid colors. Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about that one. Yeah, I was very happy when I got it done and I was able to give it to the parents before Christmas. And I explicitly told them, this is not a Christmas present. It was supposed to be done when the baby was born. I'm just a few months late. But you know. It's nice to have friends that know that you have good intentions and who are in similar situations, I guess. So, yeah. Anyway, the next project I finished was a hood for my husband. He requested, he saw a crochet pattern that showed up on Instagram, or maybe it was TikTok, of the waistline hood. And the 2 things he said about the pattern he wanted changed was he wanted it to be bigger so it would fit him, and also he didn't want it to be as holy. And the reason it was holy was because it was a mesh pattern and crocheted, so I just decided to knit instead. I do have a picture of my husband wearing it, and the way I made it is I knit a part that's for like your face, that you can also pull down and just have around your neck, and that I knit in ribbing so that it would like stay close to your face. And then when I got down here, I started a circular yoke, and I knit and increased to make it fit over his shoulders, and knit, and eventually I realized it was too long in the front but still not long enough in the back to actually put it as a hood, and I decided not to rip back but instead start doing short rows so it would eventually fit over his head, and still have enough fabric to cover his neck. That was like the point. And when I got to the end, I decided to do a double folded rim, which was hollow, so that he could have a drawstring in it. So you could either drawstring it around, like hold it down. You could either cover your face or have it just around your neck and drawstring it around your shoulders, or pull it up and drawstring it here. Or you could pull it over your head and use the drawstrings to tighten it more around your face. The thing I didn't think about was that the drawstrings, if you just have the hood on and the drawstrings are quite low, the holes for the drawstring when it goes into the fabric are quite low, and the ends are quite long, so they kind of stick out at the bottom of the jacket. And the other thing is, since the front is so low, you don't get to like really tighten it around your face. But my husband is very pleased. He uses it every time there's like snowing, and he's very happy with it. So I'm pleased with that. I might knit a different one in a different yarn because I used untold cotton merino in the colorway jet black, and it was because that was one of the yarns that he could actually have against his skin. Of course, cotton doesn't keep its form, so it is already now a bit too loose to stay up on his face by itself, so I'm going to thread a elastic band to fix it at the top, so it will like actually stay on, and the next time I'm going to knit it, I'm going to have the drawstrings get out of here instead, like in front of your neck, and then go around the hood. So I might make it a different construction, so the neck warming part and the hood part are separate. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. And that hood took me quite a while to self-draft. It was one of the projects when I finally started to self-draft again, because I had been too sick to actually think before that. Yeah, I did it on 4.5mm needles. Then I did 2 more projects before the end of the year. This is going to be a very long video. But yeah, I knit another t-shirt, and this one I decided to do the ribbing instead of the I-cord. When I'm holding it now, it wants to fold back in the neck, but when I'm wearing it, it doesn't do that. It's just because of the way I'm holding it. Have the same details, though it's very hard to see in this navy color. It's the same navy color as the last one I showed you, and the light blue is also the same one. This is also untold cotton merino, and yeah, color deep sea and poolside blue, same details here in the raglan, and I must say I am very, very pleased with how this V-neck detail turned out. I don't know if you can tell at all. There you go. I really, really like that detail. How the column kind of goes straight down when I work on it. So yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to say about this one. I mean, this is the 3rd t-shirt I knit this year, and it was the first time I did ribbing around the neckline instead of I-cord. I do think I need to change how I pick out the stitches in the back to avoid this one tendency to roll, though I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about this one. One day I will release this pattern just because I love this t-shirt so much. I mean, I think this is like the 4th t-shirt I knit in this yarn, in this pattern, so clearly I love it. Yeah. And my hairs are everywhere. Okay, and I just finished it, haven't blocked it or anything. I did run out of the dark yarn for the light yarn, so the ribbing is incredibly short at the bottom here. But I don't mind. I don't think it matters. It looks better on the sleeves because the ribbing is the same amount of stitches as the rows in between. That was a tiny miscalculation from my side when I calculated how much space to have between the stripes. I should have had 4 rows instead of 5, I think, or maybe it's 4 instead of 5. But yeah, that's fine. I didn't calculate. I didn't do the the ribbing before I calculated how many rows I had to have in between to make sure I had enough yarn. But it's fine. I wanted to do the stripes earlier, but it disrupted the the yarn over pattern in the raglan in a way I didn't like. And also because it was uneven amount of rows between the two stripes, I would have had to cast on 2 balls of yarn so that one would go do, and then the other one go the other way around when I did the different dark blue colors. And I wouldn't be able to carry the yarn. I would have to it would have been a bit more stressful, I think. Maybe I could have had 6 rows instead if I started the light blue earlier. Anyway, that's the last t-shirt project, or sweater project. And then, the very last project I did was a pair of under the yoke socks, but in Bestemor Meditating in Mumbai yarn instead, in the color 101. And they do fit, they look silly, but they are very tight, not hair, like this way, very stretchy, but after I finished them, they kind of like shrunk in this direction, so they are not as tall as my other socks, and also the foot part is very short. So I am going to go back and add one more section to lengthen the foot, because this just looks ridiculous. I do think it's because the alpaca yarn is more stretchy in this direction, while this yarn is more stretchy in this direction. So yeah, when I don't think I'm going to be able to block this and actually get the stretch or length I need. I think it's better if I just add one more section. And these socks actually went quite quickly when I did start working on them. I think I cast them on in like September, but I only did a few rounds of the ribbing, and I just set them aside, and I was like, I'm not even going to write them down and say that I've started a pair of socks, because I was so done with vanilla socks. And at some point I was like, but you don't have to knit vanilla socks. You could just knit under the yoke socks. You love that pattern. And then I think I used only a few days to knit them. Actually, I can check. Yeah, 9 days to have both socks done, and it was over Christmas, so I didn't have that much sock knitting time. Yeah. Okay, good enough. So that was my very last finished object, though I do have to add it to next year's list when it comes to fixes. And maybe I can then say if I use them or not. I guess. Should also have gotten up a size in general. I think that would have solved the problem. Oh well. Now, before I leave you with this incredibly long video, I just want to do a few stats. I'm not talking about yarn stats, because I did that in the last video with my 2025 recap of my yarn stash stand video series. Instead, I'm just going to talk about the projects that I did knit. Projects altogether, not including the fixes, only the things that I finished this year, are 32 projects, and that's insane. That's a lot of projects. I did most month finish 2 or 3 projects. I have 3 months where I finished 4, and 1 month when I only finished 1. But I have finished objects in all months throughout the year. I knit 11 sweaters or t-shirts this year. 7 pairs of socks. That's insane. And hats, bonnets, and a hood. I knit 8 and 6 other projects. The other projects were scarves, the 2 seating mats, and the blankets, and one more that I've forgotten. Not important. Comparing that to last year, I knit 27 projects, so I actually knit 5 more projects this year. I knit 2 more sweaters or t-shirts because I only knit 9 last year. I made the same amount of socks, which is surprising. I did give away a lot of socks in 2024 because they were too big for me. And I knit 10 hats. All of them were forest hiking hats. And I did one other project, and I do not remember what that was. But you can see my last video to figure that out. The 2024 video. But yeah. All in all, I actually thought I knit less this year. The fact that I have knit 2 more t-shirts / sweaters and actually ended up with 5 more projects than last year. I find that insane. I thought, especially during the last 4 months of the year, I thought I nearly didn't knit at all because my hands hurt too much. At least I had a few weeks where I didn't knit at all. And then, I don't know, maybe it's because I knit quite a lot of small projects, but I did knit quite a lot of small projects in 2024 too. Hats doesn't take that long. My computer has started to wind up the fan, so you're going to be able to hear that now. So that means we're going to have to wrap this up. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. I do hope this has been interesting, even though it's been an incredibly long video. And I'm going to try and cut out any unnecessary stops and breaks. And I'm going to try and remember to add all the photos when I do know I have photos. I do know that 2 of the bonnets do not have photos, sadly. But the rest should have photos. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'm getting really sore in my throat, so yeah. Thank you all for watching. Like the video if you liked the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all in a normal podcast when I get back from vacation.